Have you ever felt the rules were made only for the little guys in your perfect little suburb? What if the HOA president who smiled so sweetly at meetings was the one secretly draining your water rights for her personal gain? And what would you do if a disabled veteran, tired of being painted as the neighborhood problem, decided to turn off the tap on an empire of entitlement? Let me paint you the full picture. My name is Wade Garrison, 20 years as a Navy Seabee, building everything from bridges to bunkers under fire. Lost my leg in Afghanistan. Came home looking for peace in Lakeside Estates, HOA, a quiet Colorado community built around a pristine lake. My family had owned the original parcel since the 1920s, with ironclad water rights in the deed. This wasn't just a house to me. It was my sanctuary after the VA hospitals and the nightmares. I'd sit on my dock at sunrise, coffee in hand, watching the mist rise while eagles fished. My daughter Emma visited summers before the divorce, learning to cast a fly rod right there. The plan was simple: live quietly on my disability pension. Maybe start a small fishing guide service for other vets with PTSD. This lake was going to be Emma's inheritance, a piece of family history she could pass down. Then I met Karen Sterling Blackwood, our beloved HOA president. 54. Inherited wealth. Drove a white Range Rover that had never seen a real road, and spoke about community standards like she was Mother Teresa. In reality, she was pushing through luxury guest villas, 127 of them, disguised as community enhancements, but really short-term rentals she profited from massively. And guess what they all ran on? My water system. While I was spending 6 months at the VA dealing with prosthetic complications, Karen's crews were busy. They built fountains, irrigation lines, a massive community pool, and those 127 villas, every single one tapping directly into my private spring-fed lake. The smell of diesel and concrete dust replaced the clean mountain air. Jet skis and drunk tourists drowned out the morning bird songs. Garbage floated in water that used to be crystal clear. My sanctuary had become spring break central, and I was paying for the privilege. My water bill exploded from $45 to $890 a month. The well pump that used to cycle twice a day now ran constantly, grinding away like it was supplying a small city. Water pressure dropped so low I had to choose between hot water and flow in the shower. Meanwhile, Karen was charging $400 a night per villa. Do the math: 127 villas at peak meant over $50,000 a night, all on my water. While I got the electric bill, the taste of chlorine told me the water table was dropping, concentrating minerals. The lake that used to sparkle now had sunscreen scum. But here's what Karen didn't count on. 20 years of military service teaches you that when someone declares war, you don't surrender. You plan. The first time I met Karen face to face, she stepped out of that Range Rover in $800 hiking boots that had never touched dirt, carrying a designer water bottle next to the lake she'd been polluting. She looked me up and down, taking in the prosthetic and fatigues, calculating how little she'd need to offer. What she saw was a broken vet on fixed income. What she missed was a guy who'd solved impossible engineering problems under fire. That was her first mistake. 3 days after I got home, her lawyer showed up with a cease and desist. The guy stepped out of a BMW in a $3,000 suit to serve papers to a disabled vet in a cabin. The letter claimed I was interfering with legitimate HOA operations by restricting water access. The brass on these people was stunning, but it got personal fast. I drove to the county courthouse in my beat-up truck, past Karen's Range Rover in the visitor spot, and spent 3 days digging through dusty records. No easements. Zero. The water rights belonged exclusively to my property. Karen had built her entire $12 million community enhancement empire assuming a disabled vet wouldn't fight. She'd gambled on me being too weak, too broke, too overwhelmed. In her mind, I was the perfect victim. She'd built first, planned to deal with me later with some insulting buyout. 2 weeks later, Karen tried the carrot. She pulled up in that Range Rover, stepped out in designer jeans and cashmere that cost more than my groceries for 6 months. "Mr. Garrison," she said, flashing that $1 million smile. "There's been a misunderstanding. I'd like to make you an offer that solves both our problems." She handed me a check for $75,000. This should more than compensate for any inconvenience. All you need to do is sign this water access agreement. I looked at the check and felt that cold combat rage. Let me understand. You're pulling $50,000 a night using my water, and you want permanent access for 75 grand total. Her smile flickered. Let's be reasonable. Mr. Garrison, 75,000 is generous for a man in your situation. You're on disability. Legal battles are expensive. This lets you walk away with more than you've probably seen in your life. My situation. She'd reduced 20 years of service and a Purple Heart to your situation. I handed the check back. I'll pass. The temperature dropped 20 degrees. You're making a mistake, she hissed. I have resources. I can drag this out for years. Bury you in fees until you lose everything. I smiled. Maybe. But I've got all the time in the world. And your villas die the second I turn off the water. After she left, I called my veterans' rights attorney, Jake Morrison. This isn't just theft, he said. It's exploitation of a disabled vet. We're going to have fun. Jake dug deeper. Not only no easements. Karen never got commercial water permits. State rules required them for anything over 10,000 gallons a day. Her villas were using over 100,000. Everything she'd built was illegal. Like building a house without permits, it could be condemned. Karen's next move came fast. I woke to orange cones blocking my driveway and a new sign. Private HOA property. Lakeside luxury villas only. My own driveway declared off limits. A chain-link gate now sealed the only road to the highway. 3 guys in matching lakeside protection polo shirts stood around with clipboards, trying to look tough. Sorry, sir. Residents and authorized guests only. I live here, I said, pointing at my cabin. Not according to our maps, the guard smirked, showing my lot colored as part of the villas. The audacity was breathtaking. But Karen underestimated a CB. Every position has multiple access points if you think creatively. While Jake filed an emergency injunction, I documented everything: photos, recordings, GPS. The next morning, a county surveyor's truck showed up. Court ordered. The surveyor, Bob, worked all day. By lunch, he looked puzzled. Mr. Garrison, I need to show you something. 12 of Karen's luxury villas sat 40 to 60 feet onto my property. Permanent structures on land she didn't own. Not just water theft, criminal trespass. That evening, I sat on my dock watching the sunset. The sound of jet skis unable to drown out the satisfaction. Karen had handed me enough evidence to destroy her. But the real bombshell came from my late uncle's basement. Emma was visiting when we cleaned out old boxes. She pulled a folder marked Lake Water Agreement 1987. Temporary agricultural access only. Expired 1995. Then emails. Karen's emails from 2018 discussing the water situation before construction. Client advised water agreement expired. Garrison has exclusive rights. Recommend easement first. Karen's reply. Proceed as planned. Can deal with Garrison later. Disabled vet living alone probably won't be an issue. She'd known. Every shortcut. Every violation. Deliberate. She'd bet everything on me being too broken to fight. Bad bet. I approached it like a military operation. Thorough planning. Clear objectives. Overwhelming force at the right moment. Using my CB skills, I designed and installed a master shutoff valve at the wellhead feeding all 127 villas. Redundant system. Flow meters. Security cameras. Everything documented and legal. When I was done, I could kill water to the entire complex with one turn and prove exactly why. We filed complaints with the State Water Board for back usage fees, $340,000 at commercial rates. Coordinated with code enforcement on building violations. Prepared federal lawsuit for property theft. Disability discrimination. Emotional distress. The math was staggering. Each villa used 850 gallons daily. At commercial rates, Karen owed roughly $127,000 a month. Her loan payments were 6 figures. Cash flow depended on peak summer occupancy. If I shut off during the July 4th HOA festival weekend, the biggest moneymaker, she'd face catastrophe. I built allies. Commissioner Sarah from the Water Authority. David, the investigative reporter who'd been tracking HOA corruption. My neighbor Tom, whose own pressure issues suddenly made sense. Timing was surgical. July 4th meant every villa booked. Families arriving expecting luxury. Shutting off at 2 p.m. Friday would create maximum chaos with maximum witnesses. Karen's desperation showed in June. She sent the county water inspector Jerry with a fake contamination claim. Anonymous tip says your well is unsafe. I insisted on independent testing, cleaner than city water. But my cameras caught Jerry leaving my place and driving straight to Karen's office. Later footage showed her handing him an envelope. This should take care of that water problem. Make sure the old cripple's well gets declared unsafe. Old cripple. 20 years, and a Purple Heart reduced to that. Jake called the FBI. Bribery of a public official targeting a disabled vet, federal crime. The story broke. HOA president bribes official to target disabled veteran. Social media exploded. Veterans groups boycotted. Karen's Facebook flooded with rage. She doubled down, calling me a troubled vet trying to extort the community. Her own board demanded an emergency meeting. Stock in her side businesses dropped. Then she got physical. I woke to slash tires. Cut phone line. Smashed mailbox. Security cameras caught two men in ski masks, working for her protection company. One said into the lens, "Next time he won't be so lucky." Boss lady wants this problem to disappear permanently. Warrants out for both men. FBI seized her records. Pattern of intimidation. Underreported taxes. The sterling name. Once respected in real estate. Now synonymous with greed. July 4th arrived hot and perfect for Karen's festival, pool party, BBQs, fireworks over her lake. Every villa booked. I positioned myself in dress uniform by the master valve at 1:45. Purple Heart shining. Cameras rolling. David had news crews. Commissioner had inspectors. Jake had papers. Sheriff had deputies. At exactly 2 o'clock, I turned the valve clockwise. Water pressure dropped to 0 in 3 minutes. Families who just checked in found no showers. No toilets. Kids cried. Elderly panicked in 95-degree heat. By 2:30, over 300 angry guests stormed the rental office. Karen emerged in white designer suit and heels, trying to calm the mob. Temporary outage. Being resolved. Then she saw me sitting calmly by the valve, surrounded by officials and cameras. She stalked over. Face purple. "This is illegal. You can't shut off our water. This is sabotage." I stood slowly with my cane. Looked straight into the lenses. "Actually, ma'am, I can. It's my water. Always has been. Here's the documentation proving you've been stealing it for 3 years." I handed David the folder. Deeds. Expired agreement. Her own emails admitting she knew. Commissioner stepped up. MS. "Sterling, you're served with violations for unauthorized water use. Exceeding limits. No environmental permits. All operations cease immediately." Sheriff added. "And a federal warrant for bribery and intimidation of a disabled veteran. You have the right to remain silent." The crowd turned ugly. Demands for refunds. Threats of lawsuits. Families packed cars and left. Karen's empire crumbled live on TV. Her suit stained with sweat and gravel. Heels broken. Voice shrill. "You can't do this. I built this community. This crazy veteran is destroying everything." I waited for her to finish. "Ma'am, 3 years ago you decided a disabled veteran would be easy to steal from. You thought I was too broken to fight. You were wrong. By sunset the development was empty." Karen's most profitable weekend had become a disaster broadcast nationwide. Refunds topped $200,000. State shut everything down until proper rights were secured. Her board fired her. Within 30 days she settled, paid $425,000 in back fees, covered my $150,000 legal costs, and a court order locked my exclusive water rights forever. Criminal charges stuck. Guilty on federal bribery. Added disability rights violations. 3 years prison plus supervised release. The inspector lost everything too. But the real win wasn't money. I used $200,000 to start the Colorado Veterans Housing Assistance Fund. Jake helped launch a free water rights legal clinic for rural vets. The lake recovered in 6 months. Eagles returned. Water sparkled again. Emma moved back to help launch Warriors fishing guides. Therapeutic trips for vets with PTSD. Our first client, a Marine who'd lost both legs, landed his first trout from my dock with peace on his face. The chaos of jet skis replaced by respectful casting lines. Karen lost it all: position, assets, freedom. Her father disowned her publicly. The sterling name became a punchline for HOA greed. Legislation protecting rural owners and disabled vets from development exploitation passed unanimously. Annual Veterans Lake Day now raises over $100,000 for housing help. Families fish, share stories, honor those who sacrificed. Every sunrise I still sit on the dock with coffee, watching eagles fish in clean water. The prosthetic reminds me what service costs. The peaceful lake reminds me what it protects: the right to live with dignity on land your family earned. Karen Sterling Blackwood learned the hard way that some veterans don't break when pushed. Sometimes they just get more dangerous. And when you try to steal from someone who's already sacrificed for this country, you better be prepared to lose everything you think you own. In the end, the real lesson here is simple. Never underestimate the quiet guy who's been through hell and still has the paperwork. HOA Karens of the world, keep pushing until someone pushes back smarter. Stay patient. Document everything. And when the moment comes, turn the valve. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just cuts off the water and watches the empire dry up.